You're listening to Fox City's Murder and Mayhem, your bi-weekly dose of true crime history in a small rural community of Wisconsin.
Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Fox City's Murder and Mayhem. I'm Eric.
I'm Gavin.
And we are back, and we have a shipwreck.
We do. Did you see? Could you see that?
I saw the notes to remember, and I got really excited because I'm like, shipwreck.
Okay, I was like, I don't know how you know that unless you could see across the table. But all right, yes. So Eric specifically requested some shipwreck stories. We're gonna do two, maybe more later. I don't know, but I have two that we're gonna do, not back to back. I'll put something in between them, but. Yeah, this is one of them.
So what lake are we on for this shipwreck?
Well, we're Lake Michigan.
Lake Michigan. Okay,
we're probably going to be mostly Lake Michigan for shipwrecks because this is Fox City's Murder and Mayhem. So if a ship goes down in Lake Erie, I don't give a crap.
Well, Lake Erie, you're picking the most extreme one, but what about Lake Superior? That's not that far away.
That's still iffy. You keep trying to push this to the UP for some reason. I don't know. I mean, yes, Lake Superior is kind of still, but I'm trying to keep this northeast Wisconsin, and you keep pushing those boundaries.
All right, we'll just do Lake Michigan, okay?
At least for now. If I ever start running out of things, I'll be more open to it. Or if you bring one that you absolutely say, we got to do this, and we'll do it. But, all right. So this is the sinking of the SS Phoenix. I'm just going to call it the Phoenix. It's a little background. Now, I don't know anything about boats, just to be really clear. This is why the shipwreck stories don't really appeal to me that much. It's not that they're not good stories. It's just that a lot of the terminology I don't really know.
Okay.
This same week that we're recording this, I also gave a presentation on trains, and I don't know, I know a lot of train history in general, but the mechanics of a train I do not know. And I knew I was going to get in trouble for it. I knew it.
So I have to try to refrain from why would that happen type questions for you because you have no idea. Yeah. That's what you're telling me. Okay.
No, I did this train talk on Monday. We'll get to the episode. I did this train talk on Monday, and the person who runs the event was like, "Oh, we brought our train expert." I was like, "Don't even." I'm like, I'm going to tell you some local stories that involve trains. I am not a train expert, and I wanted to be very clear with that. And I'm glad that I was, because there were two guys there who were retired train. I don't know what their jobs were, but they had worked for the railroad for their career, And I'm like, I'm not going to be able to tell them stuff they don't know. So I'm like, do not start by calling me a train expert, because I am absolutely not. But anyway, okay. Same with ships. So we start with the Vandalia, which is not really relevant to our story, but I'm just going to give some background here to kind of set the stage. The Vandalia is built in 1841. It's designed by Captain James Van Cleve. It was the first propeller-driven steamer ship on the Great Lakes, which marked a revolution in the shipping industry. It used what was called a screw propeller, which, again, I don't know what a screw propeller is, but prior to that, they had been using mostly paddle wheels.
Okay.
So I know what a paddle wheel is. I know what a propeller is. I don't know what a screw propeller is. But I get the sense here that this is probably makes the ships a little bit faster than a paddle wheel would.
Yeah.
At 139 tons, this merchant vessel was operated by Van Cleve out of Buffalo. And in the following years, many additional propeller boats were built and placed on the route from Buffalo to Cleveland, Detroit, Milwaukee, Chicago, and so on. Now, the 1840s were a booming period for Wisconsin, as it was moving from a territory to statehood. Milwaukee, in particular, is a great example of this growing population. In 1840, not yet a state, still a territory, not yet a state. 1840, Milwaukee had fewer than 1,000 people living there.
Okay.
So by Milwaukee standards, that's nothing. 1846, 6 years later, it has 9,000 people.
Okay, that's reasonable.
Yeah.
Quite a spike.
Yeah. Still not a lot of people, but 9 times growth in 6 years.
Yeah.
1847, 1 year later, Milwaukee has 13,500 people. So, this is huge. We go from 1,000 in 1840 to over 13,000 in 1847. Still low numbers, but just the speed at which people are moving in.
And I got to imagine, too, even in the 1800s, that is not a small city.
No, that's not bad at all.
Right, you know what I mean? Like I'm thinking Chicago is not millions and millions of people at this point in time. LA,
it's not. There is no LA.
Yeah, I guess there would be no LA at this point.
There's no LA yet. Chicago didn't even exist until the 1820s. I don't remember exactly when Chicago started, but if you were there in 1820, you'd find one guy and a tent or something. There was nothing there.
Mm.
There were no railroads yet. The wagon paths weren't very good. So going by ship is your primary way to reach Milwaukee and the Wisconsin area. Which leads us to the Phoenix, which is what we care about today. The Phoenix was built in 1845. It was using the new technology of the time of twin screw propellers. Whoa. So, multiple screw propellers.
Gavin's getting really excited about all this ship technology.
I could have probably looked up what a screw propeller is, but I'm just going to pretend I know what that is. Ship was 140 feet long. It had a beam of 22 feet, went down 10 feet, and had a displacement of 302 tons. Now, again, me not really understanding ships, I'm guessing displacement means you could load up to 302 tons and it'd have enough buoyancy to hold that.
Okay.
Is that, you think?
I would say that's reasonable.
Okay.
I have no idea.
You're the boat guy.
I'm not a boat guy. That's like calling you a railroad guy.
You're more a boat guy than I'm a railroad guy.
I suppose.
You were on a boat for 4 years. Okay. The Phoenix spent its career making trips between Buffalo and Chicago. The ship was owned by a company out of Cleveland called Pease and Allen. I tried to find more about Pease and Allen, but every search I did for Pease and Allen just brought me back to the Phoenix. So what other stuff that they were doing, I don't know. The Phoenix left Buffalo on November 11th, 1847. It had around 275 passengers, give or take. The numbers aren't always firm on this because people are getting on and off all over the place. These are mostly Dutch immigrants. There's also a crew of 25 people commanded by Captain B.G. Sweet. These immigrants had left their homes from Winterswijk, Varsseveld, Holten, and other towns in the eastern parts of Gelderland in the Netherlands. These are not communities in the Netherlands I'm particularly familiar with, but if people are. They were meeting up with friends and relatives who had already settled in Wisconsin, Iowa, and Michigan. By 1847, there had already been some Dutch immigration. This is peak Dutch immigration time. Mm-hmm. For us, where we're sitting right now, the big Dutch settlement is Little Chute. And Little Chute dates itself to 1848. That's when the 3 big ships came and they settled in Little Chute. So yeah, this is 1847. So this is peak Dutch moving into Wisconsin time. The ship also carried a cargo of molasses, coffee, sugar, and hardware, which was insured for $12,000. Don't know what that is in modern money, but in 1840s, $12,000 is probably a lot.
Yeah.
While on Lake Erie, near Fairport, Ohio, which is 30 miles northeast of Cleveland, Captain Sweet fell and he injured his knee. He injured it so bad that he had to stay on bed rest for the rest of the journey. His first mate, a man named Watts, took over. The Phoenix reached Manitowoc just before midnight on November 20th. So that's 9 days later. To give you an idea, it takes 9 days to get from Buffalo to Manitowoc. Like, this is not fast.
Like I was going to say.
This is not quick transportation, but it's what you got. It's what you got at the time. The ship took on some cordwood for fuel and unloaded some cargo while waiting for weather to improve. Apparently, it was just a little off that day. But they departed again at 1 o'clock the next morning. About 2 hours out of Manitowoc, the firemen tending the Phoenix's boilers noticed that the pumps were not working properly. In this case, a fireman is not a firefighter that puts out fires. A fireman is the guy who keeps the fires going on a ship. Okay. So firemen in modern, or at least, common usage, you say, oh, the fireman, like the guy who fights fires. No, the fireman is the guy who keeps the boiler burning. He reported that the pumps were not working properly to the ship's second engineer, but he was ignored. He later reported that the water in the boilers was dangerously low, but he was again ignored. I don't know what happens if the boilers get low. I would think that just wouldn't power anything, but it must be more serious than that. Or they overheat
and start a fire.
Or they overheat and start a fire. So you're the ship guy. At 4 a.m., smoke started billowing from the ship's engine room. The passengers were alerted, and the first mate organized the crew of passengers into a bucket brigade in an attempt to fight the fire. The fire soon grew out of control. The first mate, who again is basically acting as captain, ordered the ship turned towards the shore, but the fire overwhelmed the engine room and the ship drifted to a halt about 5 miles from shore and 9 miles from Sheboygan. So
they didn't make it very far once they got back out in the water, huh?
No, they left Manitowoc at 1 o'clock, and at 4 o'clock they're at Sheboygan. So in 3 hours they've gone like 20 miles or something. Ship technology is not fast. The Phoenix only had 2 lifeboats. Each lifeboat could hold 20 people. These were quickly launched. The first one had the full 20 people plus captain's suite, and the second one had 19 people when it was dropped in the water. By the time the lifeboats reached the shore, those aboard were so exhausted from rowing that they didn't feel that they were able to return to use the lifeboats a second time. I will say that this jumped out at me that the first lifeboat out of there, like the captain is on there.
So much for going down with the ship.
Yeah,
huh?
Like I don't think that like the captain going down with the ship is like a law, like they have to do it. But it doesn't sound great when you've got lifeboats that can only hold 40 people. You've got 270 people, and the captain's like, "I'm out of here."
Well, but I also have to wonder if the reason for that is because he was injured. They let him off. He was one of the early ones because he had some sort of injury.
I think that's probably right. Like if he's bad enough that he can't captain the ship and he's on bed rest, like that makes sense. Yeah. Because he's not going to be able to, swim to shore or whatever. It absolutely makes sense, but it does sound bad.
Yeah, it does.
To be like, most of you are going to die, but the captain's getting out of here. Meanwhile, the Phoenix is consumed by flames. The crew and passengers tore apart the cabin and threw pieces overboard to use as flotation devices. The water was freezing cold. Keep in mind, again, this is like late November in Wisconsin. Most of those who managed to find wreckage to cling to ended up dying of hypothermia. Those who remained on the ship tried to climb upward to higher rigging, but the rigging burned and collapsed. And they fell into the fire below. Men, women, and children were panicking and became, as one historian described it, completely ungovernable. There's a lot of, I will tell you, a lot of this episode, I cannot take credit for writing almost any of it. A lot of this comes from historians report 75 years after the fact, like so 1920, something like that. That was in the Wisconsin Magazine of History, and it's a very, very long article. It's like a 20-page article. So this is like just the condensed version of that mostly. But yeah, he's like, people were panicking and became ungovernable. I love that term. Which, that's probably a good way to sum it up. Like, at this point, if you say, hey, you do this, hey, you do that, like, they're not listening to you.
Yeah, they're
freaking out.
Yeah, absolutely.
2 girls who were student age were the daughters of a man named Mr. Hazelton of the Merchant Hotel in Sheboygan. Thought they'd be able to swim to shore, so they clasped hands and jumped into the water, but they both sank. So they did not succeed. I tried to find out more about Hazelton and the Merchant's Hotel, and I really couldn't. I found one thing saying the Merchant's Hotel was at the corner of 6th in Pennsylvania, another thing saying that it was at the corner of 8th in Ontario. So, where the Merchant's Hotel was in Sheboygan, I don't know. In nearby Sheboygan, Justice of the Peace Judge Morris woke and spotted the flames on the lake. He ran down to the harbor and woke the crew of the steamer Delaware, who began building up the steam needed to take their ship out to assist. At around the same time, Captain Porter of the schooner Liberty saw the flames, and he and his crew manned the ship's lifeboat and rowed out for the Phoenix. Here I try to find out more about Judge Morris. I found that his name might be Charles Morris, but trying to find things from 1847, I will tell you, is really hard because like there's almost no newspapers that far back. So like a lot of this stuff is being reported after the fact instead of like the next day. So yeah, I'm very reliant on that historian's article because it's just trying to find firsthand accounts of any of this is really hard. Mr. House, the engineer, who was the first to see the relief ship approaching, announced this to those near him and encouraged them, hold on just a little bit longer, a relief ship is coming. He addressed himself particularly to a lady who had sustained herself on a floating settee with admirable heroism. He directed her attention to the approaching boat 200 meters away. But her emotion at the prospect of deliverance overcame her more than the fear of death, for at this instant she swooned away, lost her grip on the bench, and sank to her final resting place under the deep blue water. That section is quoted directly, because I just love the way that's phrased. She's so excited she's going to get rescued that she faints and dies from fainting. Okay. The engineer further says, the hull was a complete bed of flames, which bursting from the sides at times steamed and streamed far out upon the waters and then curled aloft, till flame meeting flame, the combined current rushed madly upwards until it seemed lost in the clouds. This engineer is a very poetic guy here.
We get a lot of those on this podcast, don't we?
Yes. Yeah. I love that. The engineer. Flame meeting flame. Later, at Cleveland, which is nowhere near any of this, the engineer gave some additional particulars. He said, Mr. West of Racine succeeded in throwing overboard enough material to float himself, wife, and child. The wife refused to leap into the water without him, so they joined hands, plunged into the water. They missed their mark and drowned.
No.
Mr. Long of Milwaukee saw his wife and child die without being able to rescue them. A young man named Tisdale, the cabin boy, was found on a floating ladder lying on his side, his head resting on his hands. He looked asleep, but he had died from the cold. So, yeah, I don't know why this is in Cleveland instead of wherever else, but later on, the people who do survive testify in Cleveland of what happened.
Okay.
By the time the Delaware arrived, this is the relief ship, Delaware arrived at around 7 a.m., which is, again, this is like 3 hours after the fire starts. The Phoenix had burned to the waterline. The Delaware found only 3 survivors, the ship's clerk, a man named Donahue, a passenger, a man named Long, who was clinging to the rudder chains, and the engineer, Mr. House, clinging to a door. The Liberty arrived soon after, followed by one of the Phoenix's lifeboats. The Delaware retrieved 5 bodies from the water, then took the hull of the Phoenix and the Liberty's lifeboat in tow. The Delaware towed the wreck to Sheboygan, where it was beached by the city's North Pier. The exact death toll from the Phoenix is not known. The owners of the ship claimed that, at most, there were probably 190 people who died, but the ship's clerk, who would actually have some knowledge of what's coming and going on the ship, felt the number was probably closer to 250. I mean, either way, whether it's 190 or 250, that's a lot of drowning people.
Yeah, and how many people were on the ship to begin with?
At its peak, 275.
Okay.
A total of 43 people were saved. 40 in the lifeboats and 3 that were saved by the Delaware found floating in the water. Several had burned to death. Many had jumped overboard and drowned. Some had tried to swim ashore, but they weren't strong enough and were lost. Many lingered long on the floating wreckage that was thrown overboard until they became too cold and they couldn't hold on any longer. And some were still found floating on their rafts, but they were dead from the cold. I want to point out here, between 190 and 250 people drowned here. And they only mention retrieving 5 bodies, which tells me there's, at a minimum, 100 to 150 bodies still in Lake Michigan there.
That doesn't surprise me what's a bit. And while you've been discussing, I Googled to see like different shipwrecks in near Sheboygan.
Oh, there's a ton.
Yeah, and there's just a brief thing, and I've got 5 of them, and one of them is not the Phoenix. So I mean, I'm guessing there's a lot of dead bodies in Lake Michigan by Sheboygan.
Yeah, so if you go to different museums throughout the state, I know the Neville Museum in Green Bay had this for a while, and maybe they still do, but there's like this kiosk type thing that has a map of Wisconsin and the Great Lakes, pretty much Lake Michigan and Superior. And they've got different dots on them of where all the shipwrecks are, and you can like see little, it's only like a paragraph, but you can see a little bit about each one of them. And I mean, yeah, there's no shortage of shipwrecks. like I think dozens would be underestimating it. It's probably a lot. And yes, it's weird to think about that, like how many people never got pulled out, and obviously there's be nothing left of them now, but like they're in there. They're in there somewhere. Can I make like a weird comment at this point?
Sure, if you want.
All right, I apologize to listeners. This is totally not in keeping with this podcast. There's this meme, and it's I saw this one time and it's really stuck with me. And it was like the amount of dead bodies in the water compared to the size of the water depends on whether or not you can swim in it.
Okay.
So if you're in like a city pool and there's one dead body,
you should not be swimming in that pool.
You don't want to swim in that pool. You're like, hell no, I'm not swimming in that pool. But if you go in Lake Michigan and there's 500 dead bodies in it, that's whatever. Cool. Yeah. That's fine.
Out of sight, out of mind, man.
Yeah. So it's like at some point when the water becomes big enough, the dead bodies don't even matter anymore. So I always thought that was weird. It was like, would you feel comfortable swimming in water with a dead body? No. But if it's big enough,
it can have a lot of dead bodies, and I'm okay with it. So now, what I find interesting about this is that, did you not say that this fire started 5 miles off the shore of Sheboygan?
Something like that.
So how does it take them far. 3 hours to get a support ship out to it? The only thing I can think of is, do they not have, are we so far back they have no sort of communication with the shore that they had to literally send a lifeboat in to let them know something was going on out there?
This is just my guess. And keep in mind, again, I don't know how boats work. But so it sounds to me like they could see the flames from the shore. So they know that there's a problem.
Okay.
And they get the two ships, the Delaware and the Liberty, to go out there. I'm guessing there's two things that happen here. One, they got to find the people to go on these ships because it's 4 a.m. Unless they're already actively like on these ships because that's like they live on the ship, they might not already be loaded with crew members.
That's very true. Okay, so that's fair, but it's still only 5 miles off the shore, so it shouldn't take very many people to get the boat out there.
Right. And then, so my other thought is that maybe at this point in time, when these ships are running on steam, it just takes that long to get the boilers up and running.
That's fair.
So if you've been docked or whatever, been in port for a day and everything is turned off, maybe it just takes that long to get everything back up to running speed again.
Right, and you brought up the point too that like they had left from Manitowoc at like whatever time.
Yeah.
And in 3 hours they had gone like 20 miles or something like that. So
whatever it is from Manitowoc to Sheboygan. I mean, it's not far.
Yeah, so I mean even you're looking at that, it's going to be a decent drive just once the ship gets up to speed to get out to the other ship because it was 5 miles off the coast.
Yeah.
So
that's again, not knowing anything about how ships work. That's my best guess, is that it just takes a while to start them up.
I think you're probably absolutely right. Wow. That's a crazy story.
Yeah.
And that is one that I think everybody should know, I will also tell you the reason why I looked this up is because I know that there's like a hull of a shipwreck in a park in Sheboygan. I'm sure you've seen that.
It's not this one.
Yeah, it is not. It's the Lottie Cooper. But I wanted to look up and just see if this was possibly the ship that it was. So,
yeah.
So
well, I'm not done yet either.
Oh, you're not? I'm sorry.
No, that's because it sounded like you were wrapping up. We're not quite there yet. So there were some people who were saved. There were the 43 people saved. These Dutch immigrants. Now, again, this historian who did the work in 1925 or whatever it was did some amazing work. I'm not going to read through this, but he identified the names of all 43 of the Dutch people who were saved. He wrote down then where they were born, where they died, if they got married. Like he documented who was off of there. And the majority of them seem to have settled either in Cedar Grove or in a place called Gibbsville, which I should have looked up. But if you want to, it's Gibbsville, Wisconsin. So if you're Dutch and you live like in these areas, these could be like your great-grandparents. I'm guessing it's got to be in like the Sheboygan area.
Yeah, it looks like it's right by Sheboygan Falls.
Okay.
But
so they are people that survived, got married, had kids. So there are descendants of this shipwreck that are still out there. They were able to recover a Dutch Bible. A Dutch Bible, strangely enough, washed ashore at Sheboygan shortly thereafter. And it wasn't just like a Bible. It was a Bible that had been printed in 1693.
Wow.
So this is like 150 years old Bible at the time. I mean, now, like, if you find a Bible, like, they print them by the millions. But this was like a special one. And you can find that now in the Wisconsin Maritime Museum's collection. It's kind of like a cool thing, not just because it's like from the shipwreck, but it was an antique at the time. So that's pretty cool. The engine, boiler, and cargo were later salvaged from the Phoenix. 175 years later, so not even that long ago, there was a Dutch public broadcaster named... I'm not even going to try to say it. There was a Dutch public broadcaster who wanted to do a podcast of the disaster, and by sheer coincidence, while they were investigating it, they had done a little bit of diving and they found the smokestack of it. So that's kind of neat. And they did release a 5-part podcast series. So if you're curious about it, there is a 5-part podcast series on this shipwreck. The only catch is it's in Dutch.
Oh, come on.
So, probably better than this podcast, but but if you don't speak Dutch, it won't make a lot of sense. Now, last little bit here. So there's the two ships that go out to save the people. There's the Delaware and the Liberty.
Okay.
The Delaware has got a bit of a history after the fact. In June 1850, so about 3 years later, another ship called the G.P. Griffiths leaves in Ohio. They're carrying 300 people, 250 of whom are German and English immigrants. So again, this is like a big time for people moving into the Great Lakes area. About 4 a.m, fire breaks out, and the greatest efforts were made to stop the flames, but nope, couldn't do it. So they turned towards the shore, struck a rock, and most of the passengers were lost by drowning. So almost 300 people go down in the G.P. Griffiths. The captain and his family were lost. Only 40 of the people were saved. The burning ship was discovered by the Delaware, but again, it was too late, just like it was with the Phoenix. So all they could do was pull the Griffiths to shore to beach it.
Okay, so I would just want to confirm that I understand this right. So one of the ships that went out to save the people of the Phoenix later started on fire.
No.
Okay, I missed something.
No. This is a totally different ship that starts on fire. It's the same ship it's the same ship that goes out to save the Phoenix and it's too late to save them. Also goes out to save the Griffiths and it's too late to save them.
Okay.
So 3 years after they failed to save 250 people, they failed to save 300 more people. Which I shouldn't say that like it's their fault, because it's not their fault. But that's gotta suck. Where you're like going out there and being like, all right, we're on a rescue mission. Oh, lost another 300 people.
They hopefully after those two occurrences, they like revisited the idea of how we're going to save ships and came up with a better plan.
Yeah, and then the Delaware, not even a couple years. So the same year as this second one, on November 3rd, she leaves Port Washington, so back in Wisconsin again, with a heavy load of provisions from Chicago. Soon after midnight, a tremendous gale struck her, and after laboring hard for hours, she sprang a leak. I'm not fond of referring to ships as she and her, but that's how it's written. The water gained on the pump so fast that they had to head for shore. The water was able to put out the fire, but unfortunately, they struck 6 miles south of Sheboygan. The winds came in, the waves came in, and just pounded the ship to pieces. In that case, only 11 people died, which is still bad, but the ship was completely destroyed. So even the Delaware, which did not save anybody from the Phoenix or the Griffiths, is now itself lost at sea in Lake Michigan.
My God. It must have just been like they should have at some point probably stopped and thought like, why are we driving these ships around? It seems like a terrible idea.
I'm thinking, once railroads were more of a thing, I'm thinking the boat traffic dropped a lot.
They're like, this seems much safer,
So 1840s, 1850s. Again, keep this in mind. Like, this is steam-powered boats. So, like, there's no gasoline. These are pretty low-tech, pretty low-horsepower ships, primarily made of wood. So, fire, storms, like, that's part of the deal. Mm-hmm. I'm sure if there was a better way, they'd do it. But this is what they had
at that time. That's crazy.
So, I like I said, I don't personally love shipwreck stories. Like, I wish I did, because it should be interesting. It should be like, holy crap, 250 people drowned off the shore of Sheboygan. That's a hell of a story. But because I don't have like an attachment to ships, it just seems less interesting to me.
Mm-hmm. I can see that. I think this has been a pretty good story, and I think again, how many people think about all the death that has happened on the Great Lakes over the years? Like
I don't think people do.
Right. And I think that's what this podcast is here for, right?
Let's say as we record this now, it's I guess by the time you hear it won't be that late, but fairly recently, like the Edmund Fitzgerald, which is probably like the most famous shipwreck, at least in the Wisconsin area, like that just had the 50-year anniversary of going down. So, if people do think about shipwrecks, that might be the one they think about. But even there, I don't think people really know what happened.
Yeah, and they haven't found the Edmund Fitzgerald yet, have they?
Well, she tells you how much I also don't know about that. Is I don't know where it is right now.
Yeah, I don't think that they ever found it.
You don't think so?
I don't know. Let's look at the Google machine.
I feel like by the time it went, it went down in the 1970s. I feel like by that point we weren't losing ships under the water anymore. Maybe we were.
Oh, I guess
maybe this is where I sound like an idiot.
No, according to the Google machine, it says that the Edmund Fitzgerald is at the bottom of Lake Superior, approximately 17 miles northwest of Whitefish Point, Michigan.
Okay, so it is under the water, but they know where it is.
Yeah, but I guess they did find it. For some reason, I thought they had never found the Edmund Fitzgerald. So
see, and I would have thought that in today's day and age, we wouldn't just leave them under there anymore. We'd actually get some kind of a thing that yanks them out.
But don't you think like it's just so like some of these ships, man, are like 90 feet underwater.
I get it.
It's a lot to bring up. You know?
No, I get it, but like, again, I don't know boats. I'm gonna keep saying it. I don't know how boats work. But to me, like, if you got like a massive ship out there, and you had some kind of like a hook and chain and you were able to pull it up, just like the value of the steel or whatever of the ship has got to be worth doing it. I would think, but maybe not.
Maybe.
I mean, that they don't do it, so maybe not, but
I don't know. That would be a very interesting thing to know, actually. So, but anyways, we've gone on long enough. I'm sure our listeners want to get back to their lives thinking about
just when I'm starting to think about how much I love Shipwreck. Now we're wrapping it up.
We're wrapping it up. That just encourages you to get that next Shipwreck episode ready to go. So.
I already know what the other ship is, if people wanted to know, but then they could read in advance and they wouldn't listen to us.
No, let's not. Let's keep it hanging because we got another episode, at least one episode between the two. So.
Probably just one in between. I just didn't want to do them back to back, so we didn't have too much Shipwreck at once.
But super cool story. I'm glad you finally put this together. So
yeah.
Now we just got to work on Gavin in bank robberies. That's his other big thing that he doesn't like.
No, I love bank robberies. You didn't want to do bank robberies.
Did I not want to do bank robberies?
You told me not to do bank robberies.
No. Well, now I just sound. Thanks a lot. You make me sound terrible.
I had considered writing a whole book on 1930s Wisconsin bank robberies, and you were like, "Nah, you can't tell bank robbery stories. They're all the same."
Oh, well, you can tell bank robbery stories. I'm declaring it now.
Okay.
So, but with that, we're going to wrap this episode up. We want to thank everybody for their continued support of the podcast, and we'll be back in 2 weeks with another episode. Do you know what the next episode will be? Or
I do know what the next episode will be.
Okay, so what is it going to... Or is this the one we're not talking about?
No, it's not the one we're not talking about. One, unless we're not talking about it. But the one that... Are we not talking about it?
We might not be talking about it because if we're talking about one that has nothing to do with murder or mayhem that I brought to the table,
yes,
we should keep that on the DL because I think that most of what the story is, if we spill that, will ruin the whole episode.
Okay, yes. The next one I want to do is the one that you brought that was from a listener. Yes.
Yes,
and which is no murder, no mayhem, but we're going to do it anyway.
Yes, and it's about a building in Appleton, and we'll just say a record label, right? Not even a record label, a recording studio.
See, now you might have just given it away anyway, but yes.
Yes. I don't think that gives it away.
Okay.
So, But with that, we're going to wrap this episode up before we give anything else away. And we want to thank everybody for their support. And we'll see you on the next one.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thanks for tuning in to Fox City's Murder and Mayhem. Join us in 2 weeks for another exciting episode of Murder and Mayhem.